Um, some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
That was Jerome Powell yesterday during his press conference after the Fed OMC open market rate cut decision. We're going to be discussing that and how to end the Fed based on that statement. Let's start with the markets first, though. The dollar is up 20 at 104.56. 10-year yields are 430, down almost 3 basis points. The S&P 500 is down almost 3 handles, very small considering the last 2 days, 59.75. The VIX is 14.94, continuing its sell-off. Gold is 26.89, giving back 16 of its significant recovery yesterday. Silver 31.51, down 51 cents. That's a lot. Hopefully copper's down more. Copper's down more. Copper 432, down 10 cents, down 2.3%. WTI is down almost $1 at 71.56. Natural gas 245, up 3 cents. Bitcoin on all-time highs, up 173, 76,000 and change. Ethereum 29.35 and change. Palladium down 27 and platinum down 15, and grains are all mixed at unchanged. There's the homepage. We've already sent out the premium piece warning, must-read bank gold tactical comment. That's all we're going to say about it here, except that it is must-read and that it's a prominent bullion bank's gold tactical comment, and it can give you an idea not of just what they're doing, literally what their prop desk is doing, but what their clients are doing as well in a rare, frank, insightful, but cryptic comment that we translate for you. All right, Thursday PM Post and Rabo MAGA Team 2.0 knows the levers of power. That's Michael Every, and he happens to be right. Okay, as you're looking at the End the Fed Carefully screen there, just a quick recap of the markets yesterday. The markets themselves reacted in a front-running fashion before the Fed cut. So the markets were strong. And when I say the markets, I mean gold, silver, commodities, as well as bonds. The markets reacted favorably, expecting a 25 basis point cut. And then when the cut came, the markets continued reacting favorably. So there was no buy the rumor, sell the news. Now you could make the case that just means the market has more money to go into it. And that's probably true, but there's going to be a little bit of that. That's actually, I think, the press conference was a little bit more dovish than it should have been. Okay, in my opinion. So let's go through the press conference, and that'll tell you what happened there yesterday. All right, so starting off at the top, number one, Fed cuts 25 basis points as expected. The statement had a significant, I think it was significant change. They literally took out the red line version there, a phrase saying the committee has gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably towards 2%. They removed that. Okay. And they put in the committee seeks to achieve maximum employment and inflation at the rate of 2% over the long run. That's essentially throwing in the towel on the 2% target. It's everything but throwing in the towel. The committee judges that the risks to achieving its employment and inflation goals are roughly in balance. Okay, so they have moved from, as I mentioned yesterday, with profanity, they have officially, before it came out, I said this, they have officially moved from worried about inflation, which is now on its way back up, to worried about unemployment, which is on its way up. So governments always choose inflation. That's all you need to know, unfortunately. Okay, the press conference. Now, before we get into the whole no, I won't leave, Powell added that even with today's cut, that policy is still restricted with the potential to still accelerate the pace size of cuts. Now, he was net dovish in the conference. So he said, we're still restrictive, implying we have room to ease. So he doesn't seem to be concerned at all about inflation. He seems to be more concerned about jobs. Okay. In a question planted by the Fed to be asked and answered, yes, it was planted. That's how these things happen, unfortunately. He had to make his statement. Powell was asked in multiple ways if he would leave the Fed if asked to by President-elect Trump. He plainly stated no. Now, many likened his comment to an authoritarian, above the law, unelected official's arrogance. And I'll show you a couple statements to that effect. Others praised his attempt to stand firm against government interference. Let's show you a couple of those pictures. All right. There's Alex Jones, breaking bombshell. Federal Reserve is above the law and answers to no one, according to Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. And he wasn't alone in saying that. Nothing says the Federal Reserve is an anti-American private entity more than its chairman Jerome Powell saying no multiple times to resignation. Trump won the popular vote and the Electoral College. If he tells you to step down, we need you to step down. I think is what he finished there. Now, on the other side of that coin, what is this about? Powell said he would not resign as Fed chief if Trump asked for his resignation. No one is above the law. This would make me want to replace him. I'm sorry, that's not the other side. Here's the other side of the coin. Oh, wrong way. Bear with me. There we go. Fed Chair Jerome Powell signals he's not going anywhere, even if President-elect Trump tries to replace him next year. Powell just made it clear he'll hold his ground on his role and independence at the Fed. Jerome Powell flat out refuses to step down from the Fed, even if Trump demands it, saying the president doesn't have the power to remove or demote him. Powell is standing firm on Fed independence, resisting Trump's push to influence him. Okay. There is because it's a political season, there are a couple things that are obvious, and I'm gonna hopefully this will help you make your own decisions on the Fed. I have an opinion, and we're about to hear it, but ideologically, right, left and right, Powell saying that aligns him with the leftists, with like he's standing up to Trump, whatever, right? And on the right, which is where it's much more interesting, there's a split, and the split is between we want to end the Fed, right? That's the end of Fed types, and I happen to be one of those, versus Fed independence, which is a very, also libertarian. There's, it's like a libertarian split, and I think I felt the split as well. Anyway, whether the Fed is independent or not is up for debate, depending on how you define independent. We don't see how they can be 100% independent ever. It's just not possible. But to make that statement, for Powell to make that statement, after Trump had already said he would not ask Powell to resign, is to pre-address any changes of heart Trump may have, or to put on a suit of armor against any future pressures Trump may levy. It is even more important for the Fed to directly address others who are concerned about a possible resolve collapse over the next 2 years under what could be relentless pressure from Trump. Nixon successfully did this to Burns in the 70s, and that's why Powell did this. It was a large instigator of the relapse in inflation back then. There he is. Okay, this is Nixon, and he did this. I'll give you an idea of here's an example. December 10th, 1971, before re-election, Burns and Nixon have a private telephone conversation. Burns states, I wanted you to know that we lowered the discount rate, got it down to 4.5%. Good, replies Nixon. Burns indicates that the announcement of the discount rate reduction will be accompanied by the usual statement that it was done in order to bring the rate into line with market conditions. These are from Nixon's own recordings. Now, before that, Nixon's calling him, asking him, dude, I want to win, basically. Don't raise rates. Now, the reason he was successful with this, aside from the fact that maybe Burns was a little bit soft, was Burns had a history of being a staunch conservative. And Nixon kept saying to him, you want a conservative as the president, don't you? You want to go? And so Powell, not Powell, listen to me, I'm Freudian. Burns was saying, yes, I do. Well, then we have to do that. And Burns capitulated. He totally capitulated. Since then, since this disaster, the Fed has tried very hard to remind, oh, there she is, a little bit early, but we'll pop her up there anyway. Since then, the Fed has tried very hard to remind people it won't happen again, at least not as obviously as it did back then. So you can't fire Powell individually. All right. I think I'm quoting the law directly here. You can't fire Powell individually. Individually is the key word here. You can ask him to step down as president, and he can say no. His board is ultimately who fires him. If he loses their confidence, he would step down. Now, the pressure to get Powell to leave, if Trump wants to, must be indirect. That said, and here's the catch, but Jerome Powell can't stay in office if there's no office for him to stay in, right? If you end the Fed, then there is no need to fire the chair. There is no chair. So end the Fed. Why do I have Yellen up there? Old mushroom head. If you end the Fed and replace the Fed with something that's efficient, that's going to regulate money without with the proper automatic faucet, like a gold standard or something similar to it, and it's managed properly in a Milton Friedman style, you'll be fine. But there's another way to end the Fed. When you fold the Fed into the Treasury, you castrate the position entirely, and you pave the way for MMT. You don't need monetary policy under modern monetary theory. And ending the Fed or folding it more closely under the Treasury's control is a step in that direction. End the Fed, but replace it with something stable, like a gold standard, as opposed to a Marxist regime. How true is this? It's very true. Modern monetary theory postulates that all inflation and recession can be controlled with taxes and spending. So if you believe, sounds very Democrat, right? If you believe that inflation is too high, then you would raise taxes. And if you believe that the economy is too weak, then you would lower taxes, or you would do more spending. And so they think they can regulate the whole economy instantaneously with taxes and spending. So as a result of that, you don't need monetary policy. In fact, you don't need money, the way they define it. Which brings us to the roots of modern monetary theory. Goes back to Marx, but I'll just give you a little anecdote here to give you an idea of what they think. It may be true, I think it's true, but there was a debate in communist quarters with Comrade Stalin present, and there was a leftist communist and a rightist communist, so conservative and liberal, right? The liberal communists said they were debating the existence of money in a pure, iconic communist world. And the one on the left said, there would be no money. We don't need money. It's a utopia. Something like out of Star Trek Federation, everybody's provided for, and then the one on the right said, but there has to be money because there just has to be money, right? For his reasons. And they both turned to Stalin and they said, and this is ultimately the path of all communism. They turned to Stalin and they said, Comrade Stalin, tell us, will there or won't there be money in the communist utopia that's coming? And Stalin said to them, well, there will and there won't be money, comrades. And they said, well, how can that be? He said, well, in my communist utopia, some will have money, some won't have money. And that's the point. There will always be money, whether it's gold, whether it's silver, whether it's fiat, there will always be a store of value that powerful people use to leverage against people without power, without money. And so, end the Fed, but replace the Fed with something we want, not with something we don't want, like gold mushroom head. Okay. Oh, there you go. Ron Paul, right? Good man. Thank goodness for him. All right, let's take a quick look at the markets again. One other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to reach out to Jake, right? Jake has I'm not sure, it might be a niece or a granddaughter, I'm not sure. And he would like her to learn a little bit more about coins and collecting silver. And I'm going to be creating a video for her today, for him to give to her today. And it will be about well, my grandfather gave me my first coins. And so I think it's kind of appropriate that he's doing this, and I'm honored to be asked to do this. And I'm going to tell a little story about how I came to start collecting coins. All right, so back to the markets. By the way, that's Bitcoin. That's a weekly chart. Gold people who hate Bitcoin, listen up. I don't care if you hate Bitcoin. Do you want to make money? Well, that's a similar pattern to what happened in gold. And Bitcoin, even though it's not gold, and even though it's this, or even though it's that, Bitcoin is traversing the same pattern. They're going to get on the same page as the government keeps printing. The government keeps printing, the government keeps spending, and Bitcoin, may not be something that's ideal to you, but it is something that the country is starting to see as an inflationary hedge or monetary debasement edge. So whether you're a maxi, whether you're a skeptic who's long like me, or you're a hater, make some money and buy gold with it. Make some money and buy silver with it. Okay, the markets, gold. I like this. I like this a lot. I was worried last night. Gold's down 20. Asia's not buying. Yada yada yada. Copper's weak. Silver's down. But let's go to the hourly. But it's being bought during U.S. hours again, which is, frankly, it's fascinating. This is what happened the other day. This is where I got worried, right? And this is where the algo came in, I mentioned. This is the buying before the Fed. This is the waiting for the Fed. This is the Fed reaction, and this is the boom. So this is probably hot money. Now that I'm seeing this behavior, this is probably some hot money that front ran the Fed and is getting out now. If there's one thing you can take away from just to plug my own work here, if there's one thing you can take away from this must-read gold tactical comment, it's that macro discretionary is still long. They haven't sold much, and they're not looking to get out tomorrow. That all the selling that we had 2 days ago, that was CTAs and hot money and ETF American buyers who were just puking. So fingers crossed. Looks good. Have a great weekend, everyone.